You know, it's funny how life turns out. I had only been gone a little while on a mission, but when I came back, the little girl I'd adopted wasn't so little anymore. She used to fake being sick just to spend time with me, pretend to have a fever, even call me husband. Now, she was all polite and distant, calling me uncle, a title she'd always refused. Her stylish, revealing clothes were gone, replaced by a faded school uniform, covering herself up completely. I figured she'd just matured, turned 18, but the truth was, she'd been reborn. In her past life, she had married Ethan Carter, and after 50 years of tireless devotion, when he passed, she found a photo he'd left behind. In it, his white moonlight smiled gently, radiantly. On the back, he'd written, "The love of my life for 50 years. That moment shattered her. This time around, she wasn't going to stubbornly chase his expectations to attend Harvard. Instead, she applied to the first military medical university, just like her parents who had sacrificed their lives for peace. She wanted to be a doctor without borders, to live life on her own terms. For once, the day her admission letter arrived, Ethan had just returned from a military district mission. She instinctively hid the thick envelope behind her back. When she looked up, she saw Ethan in the main hall with Olivia Jennings, who was busy arranging things. Olivia's sickly sweet voice chimed, "This fine silk fabric is a gift for Aunt Helen. She wanted a tailor to make her something for fall. And these records, I asked a colleague to find them for me. Didn't you say Grandpa loves opera? These will keep him entertained." Then, with a shy smile, she pulled out a blue plaid tie and gestured to put it around Ethan's neck. "I secretly bought this for you when we were at the mall. It suits you perfectly. Let's save it for our wedding day, all right?" My mind went blank. So, they were really getting married. She knew she had to leave. Without her interference or reckless foolishness, Ethan could finally be with the one he truly loved. Olivia noticed her, but pretended not to. She wrapped her arms around Ethan's neck and deliberately asked, "Oh, did you not bring a gift back for Emily? Do you think she'll be mad at her future aunt? After all, it seems like she's never liked me much." Ethan sighed. "She's just a kid. Immature, don't take it to heart. Even though she grew up in the Carter family, she's still an outsider. Sooner or later, she'll move out." She flinched, her fingers trembling slightly. It felt as if her heart had been crushed. Her parents had been military doctors under General Carter's command. During a battle, they sacrificed themselves to protect a young journalist who had rushed into the war zone. Seeing that she had no one left, General Carter took pity on her and adopted her. She was 7. Ethan was 17. As a child, he always comforted her, telling her to treat this place as her home, to see him as family. But now, she was an outsider. After leading Ethan to say what she wanted to hear, Olivia finally turned to her and feigned surprise. "Oh, Emily, you're back." She walked over and grabbed her hand, her sharp nails digging into her skin ever so slightly without drawing attention. "Don't take what we just said too seriously, okay? Ethan still cares about you. It's just that during our last mission at the military base, you really went too far. He's still angry, so he just said those things in the heat of the moment." In her past life, when she found out Ethan was taking Olivia with him to the military district for a mission, she was devastated because he had promised to take her instead. But after she confessed her feelings to him, he stopped indulging her childish demands. He even pointed at her nose and scolded her for being shameless. He withdrew all his favoritism toward her and chose to bring Olivia along instead. Olivia had even deliberately asked her, "Emily, why do you look so unhappy? Ethan and I are going for official business. I know you don't like me, but you should prioritize the bigger picture. You need to learn to differentiate what's important." Ethan, still angry, had coldly reprimanded her. "Olivia is a military news reporter. Journalists are required to document the mission. If I don't bring her, who else should I bring? Stop letting your childish thoughts interfere with our work." After they returned from the military base, they officially became a couple. To make sure she gave up completely, Ethan deliberately displayed his affection for Olivia in front of her. But this time, she didn't lock herself in her room, crying until her eyes were swollen. She didn't throw a tantrum or make a fool of herself. In a desperate attempt to stop Ethan from getting married, she simply smiled and asked, "So you two are getting married?" Ethan frowned and asked coldly, "What if we are? I'm warning you, don't try to pull anything. Olivia is going to be your future lady of the Carter family from now on. You better know your place, otherwise, I won't hesitate to send you to the capital to live with Grandpa." Before he could finish his sentence, she interrupted him. "Congratulations, Uncle Ethan." Ethan froze. In the past, she had never been willing to call him uncle, but now she finally accepted it. Ethan seemed momentarily unsettled by her response. Olivia quickly picked up on the shift in atmosphere between them. A fleeting look of unwillingness flashed across her calculating expression, but she quickly regained her composure and stepped forward with a light, easy smile. "Emily, I brought you something," she said. "Ethan and I are getting married soon, so we've been clearing out a lot of things at home. Consider this my gift to you as your future sister-in-law." She handed her a large box. When she opened it, she found it filled with old clothes. This wasn't new. Olivia always did this. Any clothes, shoes, or accessories she no longer wanted, she would pass down to her. In the past, Ethan had at least made an effort to buy her new clothes, dressing her up like a little princess. But now, she was only worthy of his cast-offs. Olivia smiled as if she were being generous. "I treat you like family. There's no need to waste money on new things when these are still perfectly fine. Look, this trench coat, I bought it when I went to the mountains for an interview. The style might be a bit outdated, and there's a small tear from when it got caught on something, but if you stitch it up, it'll be good as new. And this skirt, a tailor made it for me. It's one of a kind. It has a little stain, but that doesn't matter, does it? You're just a kid. No need to be so particular." Finally, she dug through the box and pulled out half a melted lipstick. Pressing her lips together in a smile, she added, "Ethan mentioned you like makeup. I had a colleague bring this back from overseas for me. I've barely used it, so you can have it." Ethan shot her a disapproving look. "It doesn't suit you," he muttered. She let out a bitter laugh. People always said Ethan and Olivia were a perfect match, talented and beautiful, a couple made in heaven. And yet, she couldn't accept it. She had once thought that if she wore Olivia's old clothes and put on a mature woman's makeup, maybe Ethan would look at her differently. But in his eyes, she had only ever been an imitation, a cheap and laughable copy. This time, she didn't fight it. She smiled naturally and said, "Thank you, Uncle Ethan." "Thank you, Olivia. But I'm still a student, and these things don't really suit me. You should keep them for yourselves." It was only then that they finally noticed the change in her. She was no longer wearing clothes that didn't match her age, no longer covering her face in poorly applied makeup to seem older. Instead, she had put on her school uniform, the same uniform she had once hated for being too plain and childish, the same one that now wrapped her up completely. Ethan's expression softened slightly. "It's good that you're finally acting your age," he said. She took a deep breath. "Do you need anything else from me, Uncle Ethan?" "Olivia? If not, I'd like to go back to my room and rest." They had no reason to stop her. She turned and left, leaving them behind. That evening, Ethan and Olivia went out to order their wedding attire and cakes. It wasn't until late at night that she saw the headlights of his old military jeep flicker outside the house. She had already eaten dinner alone. Sitting in her room, she quietly packed her things. When she looked up, she found Ethan standing at the doorway. She didn't know how long he had been there. His gaze drifted to the thick envelope sitting on her desk, his expression shifting ever so slightly. "Is that your admission letter from Harvard?" he asked. Ethan had always wanted her to apply to Harvard. He believed she should attend the best university, receive the best education. In her previous life, She had done everything to meet his expectations. She had studied endlessly, pushing herself to exhaustion, and finally, she had gotten in. She had followed his wishes step by step, hoping it would bring her closer to him. But even then, she had never truly won his heart. In this life, she had chosen a different path, but she didn't tell him the truth. She simply nodded and said, "Yes, it arrived yesterday." For the first time in a long while, Ethan smiled. "You should go to the capital and tell Grandpa the good news. Since Olivia and I are busy preparing for the wedding, we won't have time to look after you." She gave a quiet nod. All right. The military medical university started its semester earlier than most schools. She had been wondering how she would slip away without him noticing, but since he was sending her away himself, she no longer needed an excuse. Ethan hesitated for a moment before asking, "Do you need me to assign a security officer to take you there?" She shook her head. "No need." "Then go to the train station tomorrow by yourself. Olivia and I will be visiting an old commander. Oh, and one more thing. After Olivia and I get married, we plan to convert your room into a nursery. I'll have a guest room downstairs set up for you. Make sure to pack up all your belongings before you leave." The next day, Ethan was gone by the time she woke up. She finished packing her bags, then took one last look around her room. In the wardrobe, there were still a few things he had bought for her. An old second-hand camera he had carefully selected from multiple sellers, and some small souvenirs he had brought back from his missions, things he thought would make her happy. She didn't take any of them with her. On the bedside table, there was still a photo of the two of us. She picked it up, ran her fingers lightly over the surface, and then set it back down. After all, from now on, they would be a happy family of 3. There was no longer a place for her here. She carried her luggage downstairs, pausing at the doorway for one last look at the place she had called home for the past 10 years. In her heart, she silently said goodbye to the past, to Ethan Carter. From now on, they would never see each other again. She had only been at university for a week when Ethan showed up. She had known he would find out sooner or later. After all, Grandpa Carter was in the capital, while her school was in the Northwest. The student roster of the military medical university was shared with the military. Given the Carter family's deep connections, there was no way they wouldn't uncover the truth. That day, she was carrying a thermos on her way to the boiler room to get hot water when Ethan's military jeep pulled up in front of her. The moment he stepped out, he immediately confronted her. "Who told you to apply to the military medical university? Didn't I tell you to apply to Harvard?" Trailing behind him was Olivia Jennings, clinging to his arm as she added in a deliberately sweet but sharp voice, "Emily, you're being so immature. Ethan and I went through so much trouble to plan a future for you. If you resent us, fine, but how could you gamble with your own future?" She met Ethan's gaze steadily and said, "I'm not gambling with my future. This is what I want to do." But he didn't care about what she wanted. He spoke in the same commanding tone he always used, as if his word was final. "Where's your dorm? Pack your things and withdraw from school. You can retake the entrance exam next year." Hearing those words again brought back memories of her past life. She had spent countless nights studying under dim lights, pushing herself to the brink of collapse, just for a few words of approval from him. Now, standing here, she felt nothing but exhaustion. When she saw the security officer heading toward her dormitory, she instinctively stepped forward to block his way. For the first time, she called Ethan by his full name. "Ethan Carter," she said, looking directly at him, "what right do you have to interfere in my life? Are you speaking as an outsider, an uncle in name only, or as the man I once foolishly loved?" The moment those words left her mouth, the unspoken tension between them finally broke. Ethan's face darkened, his fury barely contained. In his anger, he slapped her across the face. A ringing sound echoed in her ears, but her mind had never been clearer. That slap? Consider it repayment for the years he had raised her. From now on, they owed each other nothing. Ethan seemed to realize what he had done. He looked down at his own hand as if in disbelief, and for the first time, he lowered his head and murmured, "I'm sorry, Emily, but I was doing this for your own good. Isn't it better for you to attend the top university?" A mocking smile tugged at the corner of her lips. "No, it's not. Because I am Emily Carter. I have my own dreams, my own path to follow. I don't want to live according to your expectations anymore." Ethan's frustration boiled over. He scoffed, his voice laced with disbelief. "Expectations? Haven't I always made your choices for you? What expectations could you possibly have of your own?" And there it was. Because everything in her life had been dictated by Ethan. She had once believed he was her whole world. She had lived solely for him, blindly chasing after him. She had thought that as long as she kept trying, he would one day see her. But now that she had stepped away from the Carter family, chosen the military medical university, and broadened her horizons, she realized Ethan was just another person in this vast world. And she had countless other choices beyond. Simply becoming Mrs. Carter, she let out a light laugh, her gaze unwavering. "So tell me, Ethan, in what capacity do you think you have the right to interfere in my life?" His expression hardened, his jaw tightening. "I've made my decision. If my parents were still alive, they would support me. I have my own future, and I will pursue my dreams here. I will build my own life, my own career. I might even find someone who will walk by my side for the rest of my life. I've grown up, Ethan. I'm not that little girl who followed you around anymore. And I'm certainly not your puppet." As they spoke, a few male students jogged past them. They were fresh-faced, energetic, dressed in athletic uniforms from their morning training. One of them waved at her, flashing a bright smile. Ethan's expression twisted with something unreadable. He had probably never considered the possibility that one day she would leave him behind, that one day she would be standing beside another man, holding someone else's hand, becoming someone else's wife. She curved her lips into a faint smile. "Uncle Ethan, aren't you getting married soon? Then let me wish you and the one you truly love a lifetime of happiness. A wedding takes a lot of preparation. You should be focusing on that, not on an outsider. Like me, someone with no blood ties to your family." She paused for a moment before continuing, "I heard the wedding is scheduled for next month. University coursework is demanding, and I won't have time." "I won't be attending your wedding." Ethan said nothing, but his expression darkened. Unexpectedly, something went wrong at Ethan and Olivia's wedding, and she was involved. She had only been enrolled at the military medical university for less than a month when an article in the newspaper threw her into a public controversy. On the front page was a large, grainy black and white photo of an elderly man in his 60s kneeling on the ground, his face twisted in desperation. He was clutching the hand of a young female military doctor, begging for help, and that young military doctor was her. The headline read, "Elderly man suffers medical emergency, begs young military doctor for help, heartless soldier ignores his pleas," and beneath it, the byline credited the reporter, Olivia Jennings, but that wasn't what had actually happened. The military medical university operated under a strict closed campus system. Students were only allowed out once a month for a single day to buy necessities. That day, she had been at a department store near campus when she encountered the elderly man. His wife had suddenly collapsed due to a cerebral hemorrhage, but she was just a first-year student, barely trained and completely unqualified to handle a medical emergency of that scale. The only thing she could do was rush back to school to get help. Fortunately, she ran into one of the professors at the school gates. Thanks to his intervention, they were able to get the elderly woman to the hospital in time to save her life. The man had knelt before her not to beg for help, but to thank her. And yet, he had only been on the ground for 2 seconds before they pulled him back up. Somehow, in those 2 seconds, a reporter had captured the moment, twisted the story, and turned it into a nationwide scandal. "Emily, we understand your situation, and we believe in your character and dedication to serving the people, her instructor said. But the impact of this article has been terrible. Many readers have sent letters demanding that the school take action against you. The university needs you to provide an explanation as soon as possible. She took a deep breath, staring at the name beneath the headline. Don't worry, Professor. I'll handle this. The next time she saw Ethan and Olivia was when they came to the Capitol to meet Grandpa Carter and finalize the wedding arrangements. She walked straight up to Olivia and slammed the newspaper down in front of her, along with statements from the elderly couple and her professor clearing her name. Olivia's face stiffened, but she quickly forced a smile. Oh, Emily, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you were the person in the photo. The picture was taken by one of my colleagues. I was just following his notes when I wrote the article. She raised an eyebrow. Even strangers managed to figure out who I was from that blurry photo, and yet you, someone who knows me well, want me to believe you had no idea. Do you really think that excuse works? Olivia opened her mouth to say something, but she cut her off. Is this what your newspaper does? Printing falsehoods without verifying the truth first? Do you journalists just sit in your offices making up stories instead of investigating? Olivia's face flushed with anger. Do you even know my credentials? Do you know my standing in the journalism world? And you, a mere student without even a diploma, dare to question me? She let out a cold chuckle and stepped closer, watching the unease flicker across Olivia's face. Ethan once told me you were an exceptional woman, someone so outstanding that he forced me to retake my exams just so I could follow your path. But now I see that you're nothing special after all. Not only have you insulted my honor as a soldier, but you've also disgraced your profession as a journalist. Olivia tried to protest, but she didn't give her a chance. I'm not the naive little girl you could manipulate anymore, she said, her voice steady. Do you even understand the consequences of fabricating a story about a soldier? Do you know how serious of a crime it is to incite hostility between the military and civilians? If you don't want to end up in prison, you'd better write a retraction and issue a public apology. Otherwise, be prepared for what comes next. Olivia's eyes reddened, her lips trembling as she whispered, the news cycle will move on soon. This is just a small issue. It will all blow over in time. If I retract my article now, it will ruin my career. Just then, Ethan, who had remained silent, finally stepped forward, his face dark with displeasure. For a moment, she thought that as a fellow soldier, he would stand by her side, that he would at least acknowledge her anger and support her in clearing her name. But instead, he frowned and said, the article wasn't Olivia's fault. She was misled by a colleague. Why are you making such a big deal out of this? Olivia has worked hard to reach where she is today. Are you really going to destroy her career over something so trivial? She felt her breath hitch, her chest tightening as tears stung her eyes. She wasn't sure whether she was more angry or disappointed. Maybe both. She clenched her fists and forced her voice to stay steady. And what about me, Ethan? What about my future? I worked so hard to get into the military medical university. This isn't just my dream, it's my parents' legacy. And yet, because of a few careless words from her, my reputation has been completely ruined. Does that mean nothing to you? You can't even guarantee your own degree. Ethan stared at her for a long moment before finally speaking again. It would be even better if you just withdrew from the military medical university. If you retake the exams next year, you can still apply to Harvard. The words had barely left his mouth when a loud slap cut through the air. The entire room fell into stunned silence. Even she was momentarily frozen by her own action. Ethan's face bore the clear imprint of her palm, a bright red mark against his skin. He furrowed his brows, staring at her in disbelief, as if he couldn't process what had just happened. It was Olivia who reacted first. She rushed forward, her voice shrill. Emily, what are you doing? I know you're upset about my marriage to Ethan, and now that you've finally found something to use against me, you must be eager to step on me, right? But Ethan is your elder. The The Carter family raised you. How could you treat him like this? She let out a cold, mocking laugh. Do I owe the Carter family? I already repaid that debt in my past life, 50 years of devotion only to be cast aside. And let's not forget, my parents saved countless lives on the battlefield, including members of the Carter family. General Carter took me in not out of kindness, but out of gratitude and guilt. If anything, it's your family that owes mine. She turned her gaze back to Ethan. Olivia, you're wrong. Maybe I did love Ethan before, but not anymore. After what? He just said, all I feel is disgust, the same way I feel about you. Ethan's eyes flickered slightly. I could see the tension in his expression as I continued, my voice steady. 10 years of love and resentment, let's call it even today. From now on, Ethan, you and I are nothing to each other. The moment she turned to leave, Ethan instinctively grabbed her arm as if he wanted to say something, but before he could get a word out, she yanked her arm free. She gathered the necessary evidence and, in coordination with the university, submitted an official complaint to the newspaper leadership. They took the issue seriously, immediately retracting Olivia's article and publishing a week-long apology. In the paper, Olivia faced severe disciplinary action because of the scandal's widespread damage and its impact on civilian-military relations. Her journalist credentials were revoked. When General Carter found out about the incident, he was furious. He firmly opposed Ethan and Olivia's wedding. She later heard that the day she left the Carter family, General Carter had just returned home, only to beat Ethan so severely with a belt that his skin was bruised and torn. And just like that, Ethan and she were completely severed from each other. After 12 months, war broke out. Ethan was critically wounded. With the worsening battle conditions on the front lines, students from the military medical university were deployed to the field hospitals. While they weren't experienced enough to perform major surgeries, they could still assist with basic wound care and bandaging. Rumors spread quickly. She overheard someone say, I heard General Carter lost a leg in an explosion. They couldn't stop the bleeding when he was brought in. Some of her classmates who knew her history with Ethan hesitated before approaching her. Emily, do you want to go check on General Carter? She continued, wrapping a soldier's wound, her expression unreadable. I don't have time. That's the critical injury ward. We wouldn't be of any use there. In her past life, when she heard Ethan had gone to war, she had been reckless and impulsive. Still a university student at the time, she had rushed to find him without a second thought. On the battlefield, a grenade had exploded between them. Her ears had gone deaf from the blast. Ethan, feeling responsible for what had happened, had been forced into marriage with her under General Carter's pressure. Meanwhile, Olivia, after waiting for him for years without results, had finally given up and left the country with a foreign man. Back then, she had thought that without her interference, without her desperate, foolish love, in this life Ethan should have been able to be with the one he truly loved, his white moonlight. But after all the twists and turns, this was the ending he was left with. She saw him again 2 months later. By then, his condition had improved significantly, and he had been transferred to a regular hospital room for recovery. However, his left leg had been amputated. He could never serve as a soldier again. This loss hit him hard. For days, he lashed out at everyone. The hospital staff avoided his room whenever possible, terrified of upsetting him. No one dared to leave anything near his bedside, let alone linger for too long. That day, it was finally her turn to care for him. The moment she stepped into the room, Ethan froze. His face was pale, his lips trembling slightly. She acted as if she didn't know him. She went through the standard procedure, changing his bandages, treating his wounds, completing her task with clinical precision. When she was done, she turned to leave without a single word. Emily, he called her name. She stopped. Through the mask covering her face, only her cold gaze was visible as she turned back to look at him. A bitter chuckle escaped his lips. You've changed so much. She had changed. After joining the military medical university, following in her parents' footsteps, she had come to truly understand what she wanted, to grasp who she was meant to be. Every day, she faced life and death. She had crawled through the wreckage of war, survived amidst gunfire and bloodshed. She was no longer the little girl who hid behind him, who saw nothing beyond love, who only had eyes for him. She looked at him calmly. "Do you need anything else? I have other patients to tend to." His voice was hoarse, filled with exhaustion. "Emily, do you still refuse to forgive me?" Ethan was wrong, because in the world of adults, forgiveness didn't matter. She had simply grown up. She had come to understand so many things, but there was still something she couldn't figure out. The battlefield in her past life had never been this brutal. What had changed? Where had things gone wrong? The answer came soon enough. The military issued a statement revealing the truth behind this war. Our army had suffered such heavy losses because someone had leaked classified military intelligence. And among the names on the list of traitors was Olivia Jennings, along with several of her colleagues. Everything suddenly made sense. Olivia had used her role as a journalist to get close to the Carter family, to Ethan, to gather military secrets. In her past life, she had constantly been wary of her, always keeping her guard up, making it difficult for her to obtain information from Ethan. That must have caused problems in their plans. And after she returned from the battlefield, Ethan, under immense pressure, had been forced to marry her, cutting off all of Olivia's opportunities, ending her mission prematurely. So she hadn't left the country out of heartbreak. She had fled to avoid being exposed. And yet, the most ridiculous part of it all, Ethan had spent his entire life longing for her, cherishing her memory, even writing a book in her honor. But he had never realized that the greatest betrayal had come from the woman he had held so dearly. When Ethan saw the list of traitors, he was utterly stunned. A guttural, pained scream tore from his throat. He tried to push himself up from the bed, fury burning in his eyes. Even if he had to crawl, he wanted to confront Olivia, to demand answers. But with only one leg left, collapsed helplessly to the floor. That woman. Why? Why would she do this? "Emily, she got the information from me, didn't she? That's why we lost so many soldiers, isn't it? That's why all those men died, isn't it?" The room fell into chaos. Doctors and nurses rushed in, pinning him down as he struggled against them, his screams raw and unhinged. In the end, with his voice shaking, he grabbed onto her. "Tell me, Emily, tell me I wasn't that much of a fool. How could I have been so blind?" But no amount of tears could undo the past. As she looked at him, at the broken man before her, she suddenly thought of the Ethan from her past life, the one who had written "the love of my life" for 50 years on the back of their old photograph. If he had known the truth then, would he have still spent his entire life mourning the woman who betrayed him? Olivia was arrested. Ethan, for his role in leaking military intelligence, was dishonorably discharged. He was now under investigation, with no future ahead of him. The war raged on for another 6 months before it finally ended. Her classmates and she completed their mission at the front lines and returned to school, resuming their studies. No matter what the future held, the time they had spent on the battlefield, the lives they had saved, the hardships they had endured, would shape them forever. On the day they withdrew from the field hospital, in front of everyone, her boyfriend, Ryan Zhao, proposed to her. Ryan and she had met at the military medical university. They were more than classmates. They were comrades in arms. They shared the same ideals, the same unwavering commitment to saving lives. They had dedicated their youth, and one day they would dedicate their very existence to this path. There were no roses, no diamond rings, only a handful of small daisies he had picked from the roadside. But in a place littered with rubble and scorched earth, the fact that he had managed to find even these flowers for a proposal meant everything. In that moment, she saw her parents in him. Ryan knelt on one knee, his voice steady and full of emotion. "Emily, marry me. I will spend my life making you happy. I will stand by your side, walk this road with you until the very end. Tears welled up in her eyes. For some reason, her mind drifted back to her past self, the girl who had once chased after Ethan Carter so desperately. To her back then, Ethan had always been out of reach. No matter how hard she tried, she could only catch glimpses of his back. In his eyes, she had always been the annoying little girl who clung to him, the housekeeper who cooked for him, took care of him, not someone he could see as an equal, as a partner. But now, she no longer had to lower herself to the ground, humbling herself, begging for his affection or his pity. She threw herself into Ryan's arms, crying as the years of sacrifice, bloodshed, and death finally found their conclusion in this perfect, beautiful ending. Cheers erupted throughout the hospital. The overwhelming sound of congratulations filled the air, echoing through the halls. Ethan must have heard it too from his hospital room. If he looked out the window, he would see her locked in Ryan's embrace, holding him tightly. That afternoon, she went to change his bandages for the last time. He remained silent throughout, not saying a word even as she finished and gathered her things to leave. But just as she was about to walk out the door, he finally spoke. Congratulations. It was the same word she had once said to him and Olivia. All those years ago, Ryan and she decided to get married. Before the wedding, they made a trip to the capital to visit Grandpa Carter.